Welcome to Best Friends in Franchising. I'm Morgan Knoller.
And I'm Catherine Allen.
If you're curious about franchising, exploring opportunities, or looking to diversify your portfolio, you're in the right place. We talk myths, money, mindset, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Today, we have a very special guest, Jessica McLean, who's the Vice President of Franchise Development for Franchise FastLane. Jessica, we'd love to start with you and hear a little bit about your journey. You were Schoolie Mitchell for 8+ years before joining Franchise FastLane, so you've been in the franchise business all of your career. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say, yes. Thank you both for having me. First of all, it's so cool to be here, and I'm grateful to be here. So thank you. So listen, I think like a lot of people that work in the franchising space, I did not grow up saying to my parents that I want to be a franchise developer or a leader in franchising. I had no idea what franchising was, short of maybe McDonald's or Subway, I think like a lot of people. And so after graduating with actually an English and history and minor in business, because originally my plan was to be a teacher. And I broke my mom's heart when I decided that I wasn't going to do that because she was a teacher. Anyways, I just kind of started to look for positions and ended up accepting a job as I think the title to start was something like a systems trainer. And so it turned out that that position was with a company based here in Ontario where I am that was a franchise system. And the reality of my role was I was teaching new franchisees with that system how to use the proprietary technology once they had signed a franchise agreement and, participated in the initial training. So that's where my career started. You named it, Morgan. Schoolie Mitchell is the name of the brand. In time, I moved into a director of training and operations role. So I kind of ran the training department for new franchisees. Then I was the director of operations. And then eventually, after many conversations with the founder and the president, they're a husband and wife duo, we decided that it made sense for me to move into development with the founder of Schoolie Mitchell, Dennis Schoolie. And then he and I really started to lean in heavily into US expansion from there. And in time started to have a lot of success in doing so. So I was there for, as you said, about 7 or 8 years. I'd say close to half of that time was on the operational side, which I think is great experience to have as somebody new to the franchising space. And then the second half was in franchise development. So then I had a baby boy. I have one son. His name is Bo. As Dennis and I were developing Schoolie Mitchell into the US, I always say to candidates that I meet with, I became ingrained in what I call the American Franchising Society because it is very societal as a community once you are a part of it. And so I met a guy named Bobby Brennan over the course of that period of time. Bobby was a VP with Franchise FastLane. And so him and we were in touch for at least 3 years, about 3 years. And not in touch all the time, but just touching base about sort of how things were going. And Bobby was interested in bringing me into the fast lane. I was stubborn and just said I wasn't looking and was happy where I was. And, we had a lot of great things going on at Schoolie. And then once I had Bo and I had some more time to think about coming back from maternity leave and I think that's an interesting time. You guys are both moms, so you know this. You just really think about what you want your next chapter to look like. And, are there maybe bigger and brighter things beyond what you had accomplished prior to becoming a mama out there for you? And so just like I think a lot of people do when they invest in franchises, I just decided to do some more due diligence on Franchise FastLane. I spent some time with Bobby. I met with Carrie Gilly, who is one of my biggest mentors and inspiration. She's the co-founder of FastLane. And it was a really, really difficult decision for me, but ultimately decided to take the leap and come back from maternity leave and start at FastLane and launch a brand called Soccer Stars, which you two both know well. And so I started by launching that brand. I was solely focused on the development of Soccer Stars. And then about 6 months in, I was promoted to VP, at which point I started to build my own team. And now I have a team of multiple brands. Soccer Stars is still one of those brands, and then a lead developer for each of those respective brands. So it's been a really just cool and meaningful and rewarding and tough, but just great journey. And so that's kind of what's led me to today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, Soccer Stars, you placed Morgan and I, you were the face of the Soccer Stars brand until we
Yep.
met the executive team, and you were just so wonderful, so on top of it, so responsive, just, I mean, amazing. You're amazing at what you do. You're such a bright light. You're so inspiring in the franchise community. So much love for Jessica always.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So October being Women in Small Business Month, given you've placed Morgan and I, and you've placed, I think around, we're going to go with 1,000 franchise owners over the course of your career. Super impressive. Many of those of which are women. What what do you think makes women such amazing franchise owners?
Yeah, I love this question. So interestingly, when I was with Schoolie Mitchell, and I share this a lot with female candidates that I work with and that I meet, I was working with and placed in large part men. There's been a huge shift, at least in my opinion, over the course of the past 5, 6 years in the franchising space in general. And then with Soccer Stars and also with another brand that I have called The Talks. I tell Courtney this all the time. She's the founder of The Talks. One of the biggest honors of my career thus far has been working with a brand that has in large part female owners, and The Talks does. I'd say it's probably at least 85% female owners in that franchise community, specifically Soccer Stars as well. You guys are two great examples of this. There were a lot more women that I was working with when I was developing with Soccer Stars. So here's the thing. I think that generally women tend to be, if they are given a system that they believe in, and that is a strong and solid system. Playbook is another word that I would often use, and they are handed that system. Women tend to, rather than there being an ego and then thinking, like, this is really great, but like, I think like there are other things that I could do that are separate from this, which sometimes we used to deal with that at Schoolie Mitchell, sometimes with franchisees. Women tend to take a playbook and just execute and follow the system and follow the best practices. And there is a level of, I think, for multiple different reasons as it relates to women as moms and as wives and as daughters, and even just like the female community and friendships. There's just a level of grit and determination and refusal to not make something work, right? Like you think of motherhood as a journey, for example. It's like you don't know what you're freaking doing as a new mom. It doesn't matter what apps you look at or books you've read. Like, sure, you can get education, but once you're in it, you're in it, and you've got to make it work. And I think women bring that same level of determination to franchising. But the beauty of franchising is you do have a book to follow and best practices to follow. And so I just think it was a long time coming, and it was only a matter of time before there were more females present in this space and community. And I think franchising is better for it and is going to continue to get better because of it. So it's been probably one of the biggest highlights of my career to just be a part of that shift that we've seen.
I love that. That is so well said. And I also would say a part of franchising for many concepts is building and inspiring a team and
Yeah.
nurturing this culture of care. And I think women by default, just like you just described, right? We're caregivers by nature.
Yes.
And so we just naturally, for many of us, general, we naturally just nurture. And so I think
Yes.
that is one of the things that makes us really successful as well.
Agreed. Agreed, because I think a big, and you exemplify this, both of you, and what you've done with your Soccer Stars businesses. I think there's the execution of the playbook, but then there's also, as the owner, operator, leader, there's what you infuse into the culture of your team as you develop and grow and scale your business. And I think that nurturing is a huge contributor to that. People want to get behind people who they feel are looking after them and genuinely love and care about them and believe in the mission and all of those things. And I think that women tend to bring that inspiration and warmth and kindness and empathy, vulnerability even. And I think those are all big superpowers when it comes to team building and building a business.
I love that. And I think we're touching on some good stuff. And I know Catherine and I also talk about the fact that women are multitaskers. We're used to wearing all the hats. We can
Yeah.
kind of pivot really fast. We can be on one topic and immediately drop it and go to the next topic really quickly. And I think when you become a franchise owner, initially you're owner operator. So you have to dive into HR and payroll and tax law. And you're really learning a ton more than just what the system has been given to you. You have to
Yeah.
go far beyond that, and you have to be willing to pick up the torch in all these different places, which is incredible. And I was curious as we were talking, it's a little off topic, but with social media out there, with Catherine and I, we talk a lot about how we've impacted the community in a really great way. But we're also getting a lot of our friends, the moms are watching us and they're watching very closely. And so we get a lot of like, oh my gosh, you're incredible. How are you doing all of this? Also, could you look at my business idea? Could you look at this? Help me out. I have this great idea. I'd love to, talk to you about it and get your opinion. And so in a way, while we have been impacting the community with our franchise with Soccer Stars, we didn't realize we were going to do is now we're impacting the community with all these moms now thinking, well, maybe I should be buying a franchise. I'm in nursing and I'm exhausted and I don't pick my hours. I don't know my shifts. And they're thinking, well, what does senior care look like? And I'm thinking that is an excellent idea. I'd love to show you senior care. So are you seeing that maybe the social media and the community impact with these women is also increasing how many female business owners we're seeing?
Percent. And this is social media. There are these very, scary negative elements of social media, and I don't deny that those are real, because they are. But there is also so much beauty in social media, and this is one, I think, an example of that, because I think the reality is prior to social media becoming as prominent and infectious as it is now, just people don't know what they don't know. Women don't know what they don't know. And so I think it's been a huge, and men as well. But I think, you guys, to use you as example, sharing about your businesses, growing your businesses, even me, and what I'm doing on the development side, it's just not something that a lot of people, I think, had a lot of familiarity with. And so being able to have a positive impact in just opening up people's minds, women's minds, to know there are other options. I think even the three of us and prior to us, I think we come from a generation where it was more so, I think most of us anyways, it was more so like, you get your education and then you decide, what are you going to be, a teacher or a lawyer, right? Like there were these kind of like boxes, and then it's like, are you going to work in marketing or what are you going to do, right? And then like that's what you do and that's what you stick to, and such has been the traditional setup of corporate America. And now more and more people, women and men, I can't tell you how many younger couples I meet with nowadays that are just recognizing, and I think social media again has played a huge part in this. You don't have to do it that way. There are other ways that you can do it. And again, that's one of the things that I think is so freaking cool about franchising. And more young entrepreneurs and young people and professionals are realizing that because of people like you and us.
And Morgan brought up on one of our podcasts the other day, you think about going to grad school and the cost the
Yeah.
cost of
Enormous cost.
going to grad school, right?
Yeah.
The investment. And why not buy a franchise that is a proven playbook business model where you're learning to run a full business? And you're just getting started. You're talking about young couples in their late 20s. There's many ways to finance a franchise.
Yeah.
Like that, I think when I was looking at franchising, I borrowed against my husband's 401k, and
Yeah.
that paid the royal or the franchise fee.
Yeah.
So and the cost, like I think, just getting, it's not as expensive, I think, as people think. And the ways that you can finance are plentiful.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what I would maybe tell my younger self is I don't regret anything. Like the journey has gotten me here and I'm very happy. But for those listening that may be really at a crossroads, it's a pretty low investment, low risk way to
Yes.
dip your toes into business ownership. And then from there, jump off. Morgan and I are now franchise consultants in
Yeah.
addition to Soccer Stars. I'm expanding Soccer Stars. You probably saw that
Yeah.
come through, buying another territory. So I'm still over here
Yeah.
doing the thing with Soccer Stars. But that's just the starting point. And once you're a few years in and you really get your groove, you have a great manager in place, then time opens up and new opportunities emerge.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
think that's another really important point. And there's more and more education on this nowadays as well. But I think you're right. I think people, one of the big concerns or reasons that they wouldn't even consider buying a business or investing in a franchise is because, especially younger people, it's just not something that they think is within the realm of them being able to afford, given where they're at in life. And as you said, especially depending on the brand, like I have a couple that I have on my team. Soccer Stars is a great example. I have another one in the B2B consulting space called Speedy Freight. That's another great example where it's really quite a low investment, especially given your point, Catherine, with the different funding options that are out there. And something like a Speedy Freight, you could go and take a job as a B2B salesperson, which I think a lot of young professionals do. You go online on Indeed, LinkedIn, there are tons of job ads for positions like that. Or you could invest in something like a Speedy Freight, find a funding option that's appropriate for you, and create this whole freaking asset and business that's yours, that's a legacy, or that you could sell and exit from. And, all of these conversations I think now are being had much more often, which is a really cool thing. So,
It is, and I do feel that at least right now I do have 2 clients and they have young families and they are moms and they're just so fearful to make the leap, but they have the funding and I'm thinking, all I can really tell them is, are you going to look back in 2 years and say, "Well, what if I bet spent these last 2 years building a business,"
Yeah.
versus looking back and saying, "What if? What if I did that and then what would that have looked like?" Just make the jump, and I feel like that fear is real, and so I mean, maybe you have some advice for listeners, like how do you get over that fear and understand that it's going to be okay. The system's
yeah.
built for you to succeed, not for you to fail.
Yeah. I mean, it's a scary thing, and it's a leap, like you said. And I think this has dissipated a little bit, but I think also franchising traditionally has had, at least in some people's mind, not a great reputation, right? Like, and so and then there's the internet and there's Google, and you Google anything and you can find really great things about it and you can find not so great things about it. But I think the reality is you have to, and not everybody, like there are just some people out there, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they're just way too risk averse and they're never going to do something like this. They just won't. I've learned that, especially over the course of the decade that I've been working in franchise development. I do think that percentage of people is changing because some of these other things that we're talking about today. But here's the thing, from a mindset perspective, you can ask yourself when you're making a decision like this, what's the worst that can happen? And there's nothing wrong with asking yourself that question. There's nothing wrong with evaluating as you go through the due diligence process, like what are the biggest challenges? Is it the selling? Is it the staffing? But if you only live in that what's the worst that could happen mindset, you'll never do it. So you got to be able to shift to what is the best that could happen if I were to do this? What's the best thing that could come from this? Could I have a business that I pass along to Bo, my son, or that I sell, like I mentioned? Or am I just like changing so many people's lives, my employees' lives, and these kids' lives in the case of Soccer Stars by starting this business and investing in this business? So you have to be able to channel into that what's the best that can happen mindset. You have to be able to trust the franchisor and the leadership team of the brand that you're going to invest in. And then the last thing is, I share this with a lot of people that I meet with that are at the latter stages of the process and deciding to invest. You are never going to be 100%. I think anybody who says that they're 100% when they're about to invest in a franchise isn't being honest with themselves. There's always going to be a lingering percentage of fear that you have, depending on how risk averse you are. So in some cases, it might just be 2%. For other people, it's going to be 7%. All you can do once you've taken the leap is channel that lingering percentage of fear. And part of my language, but what did I just do? I just set this wire and signed this franchise agreement. You got to channel that into your execution. as you start to ramp up your business as a new franchisee. I know you both did that. I know, Catherine, you were rookie of the year, so you're a great example of this. And that's all that you can really do once you've done it. But you've got to be able to get into that. I think the biggest thing is do I trust this franchisor? Because if that's not there, you're never going to do it. And then also, what's the best that could happen for me, my life, my family, my kids, my community, if I decide to make this decision and take the
I love that. And, I totally get the financial fear, right? You have a lifestyle, you have bills, you have a mortgage. If you have kids, like, my kids were just going into private school, like, there's expenses there, right? And I was at Soccer Stars headquarters and I was planning to keep my job and I was going to figure it out. I'm someone who came from franchising. I knew probably more than most what I was getting into because I'd been in franchising for 13 years and I knew how was I going to do this? Like
yeah,
that was not really going to be feasible to start a franchise and have a full-time corporate position, which I know a lot of people come into this trying to be like, I want to keep it because they need the money coming in. But
yeah,
then guess what happened? I got laid off at the Soccer Stars headquarters, right? Walked out the door. Morgan's there. Bob's like, all right, everyone, it's time to do, our,
Your
ceremony.
photo.
the graduate.
And
Photo.
so it was like the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself, right? Like the universe was like, nope. And it was the best thing that could happen because I got a severance for 4 months, but that channeled my rookie of the year because my fire was, I won't, I got to go. I got to make money. I got to replace the salary. I have 4 months, right, of severance. Like
Yeah,
after that, I'm tapped and I
yeah,
got to go.
yeah.
So
There's no option here for
there's
me,
no
right?
option.
That mindset. Yeah,
But that fueled the fire. And so I'm with you as someone who probably is less risk averse than others. Even I
yeah,
was like, oh, I'm going to try and hold on to the job. And, that just would have, I wouldn't have been rookie of the year. We'll put it that way.
yeah. Yeah, timing is a funny thing, and I've even over the course, especially because I've been doing this now for a while, I have had, it doesn't happen often, but I've definitely met with candidates who don't end up investing and then come back around. And it's because of timing and
Yeah.
circumstances. And, so I do think that timing plays a part too. And in some cases for people, it just isn't the right time for them to invest.
What brands are you really excited about right now, Jessica? What franchise brands are just like, whew, really firing you up?
I mean, are you asking as it pertains to my team of brands? Are you asking just generally in the franchising space? I mean, I
I
have a level of bias, I would
You have a
say.
level of bias. Why don't you talk a little bit about your brands, like what
Sure.
fired you up with your brands, and then generally, let's go both.
So, I have this thing in the way that I work that I have just recognized in myself more and more as the years go on. For me, there's not really a separation between work and personal. For me, it's more of an integration. And so I say that because these brands that I have that I'm working with directly, these directors that I have leading development for these brands, the founders and the teams, like you guys know, Bob and John and Adam with Soccer Stars. For me, when that engagement and relationship starts on all of those different levels, it's a very personal thing. It's professional, but it's also personal. So these are like the brands, they're like my kids. My team, they're like my kids, right? Like they're coming into the Jessica McLean family, if you will. And so because of that, I have a strong level of bias towards these brands, founders, people, this team that I'm working with directly. Here's what I would say. I think there was a wave where I'd say over the course of the past couple of years where there were a lot of people, and I don't think this is a bad thing at all, a lot of people leaning into the wellness space in franchising. There was a huge shift, and I think just drive for people in society recognizing and realizing the importance of self-care and looking after ourselves and looking after our health. And I thought that was great. and again, I'm biased in saying this, I think that the Tox is one of the coolest, most unique brands to ever enter into the franchising space. I would gladly debate that with anybody. I don't think that there's anything like the Tox. The curation, lymphatic drainage in general, and the health benefits of lymphatic drainage for both women and men, women especially, but both. Just the brand. I mean, you go and Google the Tox and you can feel it immediately. You go and look them up on social media and you can feel it immediately.
It has a
So I
great,
think
I love the,
it's just like it's just, there's this, and you guys would be living this as consultants now. Every brand, every developer, as they should, is gonna have this message for why they are different, right? Like I've got a brand called Bloomin' Blinds, incredible brand. But there are other blinds brands out there, right? There's Bumblebee blinds, and there are multiple other concepts in that space. So it's your responsibility, and Bloomin' has it, to be able to explain why you are different. I also, though, think there are brands like the Tox where it's like, that's not even a conversation, right? Like, that is not even a conversation. And that, to me, I hate the word disruptor in our space. I think it's overused, but that is disruptive when you have that. And then I also think these lower investment brands like Speedy Freight, the one that I have on my team, in this B2B consultative sales type space. Man, do I believe in these brands, because first of all, I lived it with Schoolie Mitchell for many, many years. I have dear friends. One of them just texted me for a Canadian Thanksgiving the other day, that have just built incredibly successful businesses in the consultative sales sphere. There aren't, similar to the Tox, there still aren't that many brands, good quality brands and concepts in that space. And so they're low investment, unlike a brick and mortar type brand. And to me, if you're sitting there as a young professional or a professional in general, and you're debating taking an inside sales role, a B2B sales role, versus finding a funding option like what you said, Catherine, and investing like something in a Speedy Freight, you should be investing in something like a Speedy Freight all day long. And then with logistics and freight, it's like everybody knows what that is because of the world that we live in now. So there are a lot of people that are familiar with supply chain and shipping. And so I would say brands like the Tox, where, and I mean it wholeheartedly when I say there just is not anything like the Tox out there. And then some of these lower investment brands, especially now that wellness has kind of had this wave that it's had in that brick and mortar space, like a Speedy, I think are going to do really, really well. And then there's the home services sphere too, which is always going to thrive, I think.
Yeah.
Like a Punks or I've got Brothers Gutters on my team. Brothers Gutters is now almost sold out entirely in the US.
oh, wow.
Kelly Mott, who's on my team, and myself are going to develop it into Canada coming up in 2026. It's the first time I've ever taken a brand from the US into Canada before, so I'm really excited about that. Home services, I mean, depending on the business, they're just recession proof, and there's just a lot of really great things about a lot of brands in that space, I would say.
Do you have a favorite home services brand?
I would say Brothers Gutters is, in my opinion, their item 19, there are pages and pages worth of P&Ls and financial performance data. We've placed now about 400 territories or so in the US. It's just, it's been proven time and time and time again, year after year. I've never been so confident to bring a brand into Canada, into my home country, as I am with Brothers Gutters. It's just special brand, special team, just great business.
Interesting. That's good to know. Because you are more unique than some of the people that we've had on the podcast so far, I wanted to ask you, has it been fun for you to watch these newer brands or, brand new franchises come in and watch the growth from the franchisors and how excited they're getting with all the new franchisees? And we don't really get to see that on our side as a franchisee or consultant, but you're in this unique position where you might get to have kind of those fun conversations and hear how these businesses are growing and how excited the franchisors are.
Yeah, it's so cool, and it's an honor to be a part of it. I think it, like everything, there are the really beautiful elements of the journey that you just described, Morgan, being an emerging franchisor. Like the Tops we started with, there was one franchise location. and then multiple corporate locations. We're now almost at 60 franchisees. We've got 40 open studios across the country. It was one of the big draws for me to shift from Schoolie Mitchell and come into FastLane. The idea of being a part of something like that, Soccer Stars being where I started. The other side of it, though, is it's not freaking easy. I mean, as an emerging franchisor, you don't know what you don't know. I think that's why franchisors in some cases do partner with a franchise FastLane or a franchise development organization, because then you have that level of support and infrastructure and knowledge that we provide. So, navigating, I believe anyways, in celebrating wins. If you follow me on any kind of social media, you know that I'm a big believer in that. But I also believe that so much of the beauty in these things comes from what I would call the ugly, like figuring out the challenges, navigating the challenges. Courtney would be the first to say, to use the talks as an example, they just like really had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And there was so much that they had to figure out. But now here we are. They've had one of the quickest and most successful rates of opening studios and locations of any brick and mortar brand that we've had here at FastLane. And also, I'll give you a teaser here. Next week, Courtney is going to start to share and tease and spoil another brand that she is going to be introducing. So, which I think I'm so proud of her for that. It's very cool.
Very exciting.
Well, we got to end on that note. It's a cliffhanger.
Perfect cliffhanger. I like it. Well, Jessica, yes, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. It was really nice to catch up with you and hear more about your journey and give lots of listeners really great advice.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And congratulations to both of you for all that you've accomplished in the franchising space.
Well, thank you. We wouldn't be here without you. I mean,
it's kind of cool, isn't it?
You were a huge part of why I signed. I mean, you're just fantastic. So for anyone listening, if you get this special chance to work with Jessica, with Speedy Freight, with the talks, I mean, she's incredible. So can't say enough good things. Thank you so much. We know you're busy, and hello to Bo.
He's the best. He would say hello back if he were here.
We had someone else on the podcast, and they also have a son named Bo. I'm like, Bo is like, I love the name Bo.
It's like, I don't know if you experience this with your kids or not. We thought we were so unique in going with the name Bo, right? Like we didn't know any Bows. His is Beau. I love that it's the first 4 letters of beautiful. I thought that was so cute. And it's like one syllable, hard hitting, kind of old fashioned. And then now Bows are everywhere. So it's like there were just so many people, I think, around that same time that fell in love with the name. He's got we live in a small town. There are 3 other Bows at his school, in kindergarten.
We chose Jackson. We love Jackson. I didn't know any Jacksons. That year, Jackson was the #1 boy's name. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, we have the same with Camden, and now we have to come up with CK or Cam, or there's all these nicknames we're trying out just to see if he can be different, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think so many parents had that moment where you're like, wow, I guess it wasn't nearly as unique as what I thought it was.
I know. I mean, I will say Samantha. I don't know a lot of Samanthas. Samantha, my daughter, that's a name that feels we're still, American Girl doll. That was my inspiration.
Oh, love. I remember if we were gonna have a girl, I was obsessed with the name May, like May McLean. I thought was so cute. And my mom is born in May, and I'm a huge mama's girl. And anyways, and then Hillary Duff, whom I love, but Hillary Duff had a daughter and named her May. And then I was so upset about that. I'm like, I can't do it now. It's just going to look like I'm copying Hillary, So anyway.
Well, Charlotte got Charlotte because we lived in Canada, as Jessica knows, for 3 years. And I was driving on Charlotte Street every day to drop my son at school while I was pregnant with Charlotte. So that one was an easy one, but again, not unique.
But I do love that Charlotte and Samantha, both characters on Sex and the City and Best Friends. I mean, do we see
so
cool.
Something
there? They have a very kindled spirit. My kids think Camden and Charlotte are their cousins. It's I didn't even tell you, Morgan, they came home with their family like who's in their family, and Charlotte and Camden were written into the family.
Oh my God.
They actually, it's pretty cute. It's pretty cute.
Your trip looked amazing, by the way, to Europe.
It was.
In
It
Italy.
looked
I got
gorgeous.
away. I got away for 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a manager, so it can happen, people. You can
Exactly.
go to Italy.
You can
Exactly.
take vacation and not ask permission.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? I mean, it's your time, it's your flexibility, it's your schedule, right? Like there are so many factors outside of just the monetary piece. It's your exit strategy, you know. So
It
anyways.
is.
Yeah, we'll talk about exit strategy on the next podcast because we're opening a can of worms on that one.
It's an important topic that I think people, some anyways, they don't talk about it, think about it, consider it enough. And I think anyways, it's a huge contributor to business ownership.
I know it was something I didn't consider until now.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in franchise opportunities, please reach out to Morgan and I on thefranchiseinsiders.com. Thank you, everyone, for listening in.
Thank you.
Thank you.